chance to hear it, so let her tell it. People on the streets say Sabrina speaks. Tune into the show, she will let you know. Tell all your friends and family. Real talk is no joke. You get the news straight up from grassroots and concerns. You can hear some people gone. So tell all your friends to tune in to the
Good evening,
show.
Cayman. I'm Sabrina Turner, and welcome to Sabrina Speaks, your daily dose of clarity, truth, and community insights. Every weekday from 5 to 6:30 p.m., we're tackling the issues that affect you, from national headlines to grassroots concerns. Whether you're in traffic or winding down your day, this is your chance to hear it straight and speak your truth. So buckle up, Cayman. We're not holding back.
This is the show. We gotta let you know. Now we got to go.
And now here's Sabrina.
Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome, one and all. It is good to be back with you here on this Monday as we start a fresh week. Yes, and welcome to all of our Sabrina Speaks family from here, near, far, wherever you are. Hello, I am Sabrina, and welcome to another episode of Sabrina Speaks. Yes, we're voices of the islands, conversations for the world, and the podcast where voices rise, stories unfold, and inspiration takes center stage. Now, this episode of Sabrina Speaks, I want to dive into something that affects every homeowner, every borrower, every family or individual thinking about land, mortgages, or even refinancing. Because I want to talk about the newly, if you didn't know about it, the newly published Registered Land Amendment Bill 2026. Now, this bill is now open for public review, and you know, all of you know, how I am with you all and wanting to make sure that you all stay in the loop, make sure you inform yourself. This bill is now open for public review, and it's in its process. What it's proposing is some important changes as to how to secure loans over land, or even how they're handled right here in the Cayman Islands. And it is my primary goal today. We probably may have to do this in two parts. I'm solo on this, for the record. But my goal here today is simple. Really just go through what this bill is saying, what the law is proposing, and what it is changing, or its hopes to change, and why you should care. And meaning why you should care is why it's important for you to get involved. Definitely. We want you to get involved. And of course, the content, as always, that you're about to hear, including any discussions or opinions from myself, guests, and our participants, is intended solely for general informational and entertainment purposes. It's not a substitute for professional legal, medical, or financial advice. So I encourage you to consult with a qualified professional for specific concerns. Bridge Media Limited and all its affiliates disclaims all liability for any decisions, actions taken in reliance on the information presented. 345-936-8255 is the number to call and be a part of this discussion this evening. Of course, your feedback via Facebook, YouTube, whatever social media platform that you are streaming us from, you're always welcome to post it there, and I will definitely get it. Or you can send me a WhatsApp on this number. Sabrina Speaks is brought to you every Monday through Friday from 5 until 7. And you are the foundation of who we are. And that's why your participation makes this all worthwhile. It is good to be back with you again this afternoon as we enter the new week. Wow, I love those temperatures over the weekend. Did you? Well, I'm hearing that even those Northwesters really changed their coastlines. I haven't personally seen them myself, but if you like those temperatures, let's see what's in store. Yes, here's the latest Cayman's weather update. Now, a ridge of high pressure is building over the Northwest Caribbean, and that's going to keep moderate to fresh winds blowing across our area. Because of that, we're expecting moderate to rough seas starting after midnight tonight, and a small craft advisory will be in effect. Satellite imagery this afternoon shows patches of clouds drifting across the Northwest Caribbean, but nothing too organized at this time. Tonight's forecast calls for partly cloudy skies with a few cloudy spells later and about a 20% chance of showers. Temperatures will fall into the low to mid 70s, and winds will be east, northeast, 10 to 15 knots with higher gusts. Seas will be moderate to rough with a wave heights 4 to 6 feet this evening, increasing to 5 to 7 feet after midnight, especially along the eastern coasts. A small craft advisory will remain in effect. The forecast for tomorrow also calls for we're seeing a few cloudy spells with 20% chance of morning showers, and temperatures will rise to the upper 70s Fahrenheit, and winds will strengthen slightly, blowing east to northeast at 15 to 20 knots with higher gusts. Now, seas will remain rough with wave heights of 5 to 7 feet, again, mainly along the eastern coasts, and the small craft advisory will continue. There will be a low tide tonight at 10:25, a high tide at 6:40 in the morning, with another low at 1 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. Sun will set this evening at 6:21, and sunrise tomorrow morning will be at 6:57. Now, the outlook calls for similar conditions are expected through late Wednesday. After that, a high pressure system will weaken as it moves over the Atlantic, therefore bringing moderate winds and calmer seas by Thursday. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to have you joining me this evening. Yes, yes, yes. Now let's just go straight into what we know. I know some of you, I've gotten so much messages this weekend. Thank you for those. Thanking me for these headlines roundups that is sometimes not as you would even know, because there's just so much going on into the world. I'm getting positive feedback. Thank you again for that. I can't thank you because it definitely helps me keep grounded here and to let me know that I'm actually meeting your needs. So let's get straight into the headlines roundup for today. And we're talking about right here and in our region and around the world, of course. Now, we saw a 5.5 magnitude earthquake was reported southwest of Cuba over the weekend. And while there were no immediate reports of major damage, the tremor was felt across parts of the region, reminding us just how active our Caribbean seismic zone remains. Now, if you were glued to your seats last night, in sports, the Seattle Seahawks, some people are crying today and some people are just like, yes, don't underestimate the underdogs. Well, there you have it. In case you didn't know, you must be under a rock. The Seattle Seahawks are the Super Bowl champions, taking home the title in a game that had fans on the edge of their seats. Yes. And speaking of that, you know what happened? Bad Bunny's halftime performance is dominating global conversation. Now, his message of unity, love, peace, and togetherness, also survival, has been widely embraced, especially across the Caribbean and Latin America. And yes, Cayman, our flag, has made an appearance on that stage, giving many of us a proud moment of recognition on one of the world's biggest platforms. There you have it. If you were watching this, I know you might have caught a glimpse of it. For some reason, I missed it. But yeah, thank you for all of those social media persons who were just glued to the screen. They caught it. Kudos to you, Bad Bunny. They didn't know about you before. They know about you now. Now let's take it back home right here. One of the two Cuban migrants is being reported who escaped Cayman's detention center remains missing. And authorities continue their search, urging the public to stay alert and report any sightings. And also here, making local news, police are also over the weekend are also investigating a hit and run a motor vehicle in collision, including a cyclist on Wahoo Close. Now, the cyclist was injured, and officers are appealing for information as they work to identify the driver who fled the scene. Now, let's turning our attention over to business news as the U.S. car dealers are in panic mode after Canada announced it will allow Chinese-made vehicles into its market. Now, analyst says that it would shake up pricing, competition, and supply chains across definitely North America. What do you know? And in the world of digital finance, a cryptocurrency firm accidentally paid out $40 billion worth of Bitcoin due to a technical error. Now, the incident has sparked major questions about oversight, internal controls, and the volatility of crypto ecosystem. Yes. And to wrap it up, but definitely not least, let's take it over to UK politics a little bit. We see where Morgan McSweeney has resigned as the Prime Minister's chief of staff, sending ripples through Westminster as questions swirl about internal tensions and the direction of the government. Now, there you have it with our headlines roundup. Now, that just scratches the surface for us. So we've heard from a magnitude 5.5 headlines roundup. You definitely could keeping it connected here to let you know, despite it all, we're all connected some way, somehow. But that's what I got for you today. Hey, who's in the house? Marshall is here with me today. Yes, it's good to have you. Happy Monday to you. Damien Henry as well. Always good to have all of you here. Edna, hi, how are you? Paul, hello. Really? 53. Haha. Man, when we dropped to 68 the other day, I was like, OMG. I really don't mind it, Paul, to be honest. Some people were like, oh my God, where's the sun? Bring back our 80s. But yeah, keep warm, Paul. Good to hear from you over there in Bermuda, our brothers and sisters over there. Hey, Annie, how you doing? Good to see you here on this beautiful Monday. And Connie Bonnie, what are you doing? Good evening to you, my sweet. It's always good to have you and Jimbo. You had to give him a separate shout out. Competition is stiff. I'm just going to pretend I didn't see that. Hey, Donnie, how you doing? Hey, and Jim, you got nerve too? I see you. Donnie is in the house with us as well. Hoping you continue to get well. Yes. And you did Connie first. Now, but I got Rose and Connor got hibiscus. Yeah, my friend Jim, you know what to do. Oh yeah, there we have it. Yes, all the details matter. It's stiff competition here. Yes, you ex, but I got the rose. You got a hibiscus. This is so funny. Oh my gosh. But it's good to be back with you. Good to just have a good laugh every now and again. Yes. Jim is saying the weather here has been, yes, Jim, I must agree. With you. Despite me really having to put my morning coffee in one of those insulated mugs instead of my favorite morning cup. I've loved it because I love sitting outdoors. There we go. Gary, Happy New Year to you. Good to see you. Yes. A long time going. Hope all is well for you and the extended family. It's good to have you join us here on this platform. And I'm hoping that you're loving the Sabrina Speaks family. We do it just a little bit different here and we have fun, even when we cover some very emotive and very interesting conversations as well. Connie, yeah, you're back. Yeah, that's my boy. See, Jimbo knows. He says he's sharing the love. Oh, I guess gotta love you guys. It is so good to be back with you. In all honesty, I enjoy it. I'm having fun with all of you guys. And as we share this space, it's good to just have some place to just exhale. Hey, I don't know if you all saw, but there's been a public advisory. I got to get this out of the way. So in case I really forget it, Cayman Airways has a power bank policy. There's an advisory, public advisory out. And I just want to cover this for you in case you may missed it with everything that's clogging up our news feeds, and maybe when you're scrolling through, you might miss it. Cayman Airways, I want to bring you some important information shared by them as it pertains to travel safety update from our national flag carrier, Cayman Airways, that it will affect every passenger flying our national carrier. Now, as released by Cayman Airways, effective February 17th, Cayman Airways has introduced a new safety policy that will prohibit the use or charging of external battery chargers, including power banks and portable battery packs on board all of their flights. Now, this change comes in response to a rise in aircraft cabin fire incidents worldwide involving lithium-powered devices. And CAL is aligning with international safety standards set by ICAO and IATA to protect passengers, crew, and the aircraft. So here's what you need to know before your next travel. And you know what? Don't even wait until the 17th. Just try to practice this from now, because trust me, you don't know when those things could actually cause problems. What you need to know, though, is that you can still travel with your power bank, but it must remain powered off at all times. You cannot use it, you cannot charge it, and it cannot be plugged into anything while on board. And power banks must stay on your person, meaning not in the overhead bin, not in the seat back pocket. Keep it in your pocket, your handbag, or your personal items, so any overheating can be detected quickly. Now, that's hoping you don't put your handbag in the overhead bin, which I've seen based on where you're seated, that can be a case. But hint, hint. Anyhow, these power banks are strictly prohibited in checked luggage. And this is a global safety rule due to the fire risks associated with the lithium batteries. Now, devices with built-in batteries like phones, tablets, laptops, and cameras are still allowed for normal use. And Cayman Airways just wants us to know that this policy only applies to external battery packs. Also, Cayman Airways emphasizes that this policy is about safety first. And lithium battery fires can escalate quite quickly into a confined cabin environment. And these precautions will help ensure that the highest level of protection for everyone on board is always met. Now, if your power bank ever feels hot, emits smoke, or appears damaged, notify a flight attendant immediately, and crew members are trained to handle these incidents safely. Now, CAL also reminds passengers that if you're connecting to another airline, you should check that carrier batteries policies, as rules may vary from one airline to the next, okay? Now, this policy applies to all passengers and all crew on every Cayman Airways flight. So it doesn't matter if you're going to Little Cayman or Cayman Brac, or you're going to LAX or wherever they're going, or to Houston, it doesn't matter. Wherever she flies, even Jamaica, it does not matter. This policy applies to all passengers and all crew. And Cayman Airways, as we continue to travel more, we want to encourage you to stay warm and stay safe. Cayman Airways is taking proactive steps to protect us all. And we must do our part as well to follow these updated guidelines. So there you have it. Just a gentle reminder to everyone. Yes, yes, yes. Connie says, well, you put yours in your handbag under the seat. Yeah, I think the key is here, Connie Bonnie, is that they just want you to have it close in case anything happens and it goes hot. At least it's close by and you can catch on to it really quickly. But kudos to CAL for getting this out. And it was happy for me to share it with you. As I said, some of these things just can pass you by really quickly and you don't even realize, oh my God, there's a policy change. And then you're out there at the check-in counter or something. You don't know. It could be a genuine, simple, honest mistake. But there you have it. That's the latest. And for more information, you can always follow this update, read it for yourself at your own leisure on your Cayman Airways website, and definitely their Facebook page. Happy birthday to anybody who's celebrating a birthday today, wedding anniversary, or just celebrating life. It is our pleasure sending you lots of love here from all of us here on the Sabrina Speaks family. Yes, yes, yes. For those of you just joining us, good evening. Welcome, welcome, welcome. The phone lines are open. 345-936-8255. Welcome to Sabrina Speaks. Yes, you know this is the space for clarity. Hopefully, we're building courage and community conversation right here, episode by episode. And if this is your first time, or maybe you have missed it, today we're diving into a topic that touches every family and homeowner, as I said at the beginning, and every young person who could be dreaming or is dreaming of owning land or home, in every Caymanian who believes in fairness and transparency. And hopefully with this newly released bill entitled the Registered Lands Amendment Bill of 2026, that is now out and published for public review. And Cayman, this is one, it is one that is of importance. And I'm hoping that you all realize that, because it will, some of the proposed amendments to this and clarity for more context, it affects how mortgages are created, how banks communicate with you, and what happens if you fall behind on your payments. Now, like I said at the beginning, the goal is to just break it down in plain language for you. And of course, I will try to share my screen with you to break it down, because it's a 40-page document, the bill, 40 pages long, and it has each clause of what it is. Of course, your regular of definitions, that sort of stuff. But the real meat and potatoes really start at clause 3 on to 13. And breaking it down into legal, demystifying it and putting into layman's terms for us and encouraging your participation, I want to take us exactly what the current law says, how the bill, the new bill proposes, or what it proposes, and what you will stand to gain should it be actually come into law. But the most important thing is how important your feedback is, because it does matter. And, you know, I want you to be a part of this whole discussion, and I think it is important for us to weigh in. Now, again, at any point in time during this, you are welcome to actually join into the conversation. I will do my best, hoping that the internet doesn't do anything wonky on me today, because we know how that has been going. But pretty much, let's get right into it. And like I said, the phone lines are open. 345-936-8255 is the number to call should you require clarity or have any further questions. I will do my best. What I'm doing is presenting what is in this bill, in case you haven't seen it, what it intends to bring to you, and of course, your elected representative in your respective areas, or in this case, Minister J.E. Banks would be the one as well. I stand to be corrected for this. Yes, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. So here we go. Right now, the current law that is in effect under the Registered Lands Act, in layman's terms, when you take out a mortgage, or as the law says, it is a charge. It is a charge, right? And the bank, when you call the charge fees and all of these fees, the bank registers that charge over your land title, your land registry, land transfer. You will see where the bank that gives you the financing has put a lien on your property, because technically you borrowed money from the bank in order to be able to purchase that property, right? So what the bank do is that they put a charge on your land title. Now that gives them certain rights in the event you default in your terms and conditions as you borrow, be it you're late on your payments, you didn't keep up with your life insurance, you're not paying property insurance, any clause and conditions set out into that mutual agreement between you and that financial establishment. In the event you become in default, That's what that charge is for. And the current law that's in effect, it actually defines the rights of the borrower and the lender. It allows enforcement after certain notices, but does not require detailed pre-lending disclosures. And the current law does not require either structured early warning steps. Now, that is the current law. On top of that, the current law does not either differentiate between the owner, co-occupied homes, and investment properties. Okay? So let's take a little break right there. This means that under the current law, the law forces more on what happens after things go wrong, not on preventing any misunderstandings or miscommunication before they actually happen. That's under the current system. And you know how many of us Caymanians sign mortgage documents because it's so emotive. You're excited. It's probably your first home. You're just excited anyhow. But how many of us really sign these documents without really fully understanding the long-term implications? And in my humble opinion, I think it's too many of us that are doing that. And you also may have family members that are literally, they're felt blindsided when enforcement begins. Now, it's one thing when you know outright, for whatever reason, you're behind on your payment. Okay. That's pretty much the only thing that really is on the forefront of a lot of people's minds. I'm late for whatever reason, life hits us, whatever, right? But I think this blind side is part of where the banks holds the handle and you're holding the blade happens more than the average person thinks. And like so, knowing your rights is also key. Now, what this gap in this amended bill is trying to address all of what I've just stated. And this is why it's important for you to understand. I've heard in a previous episode, I think it was Thursday or Friday, when we're saying Cayman needs to understand the trajectory as to where we're going. We need to know exactly nationally, what do we want? How do we want to diversify the incomes nationally so that our people can feel included? And I'm saying, well, how many of us really look at how much laws and how much bills are out there being amended and it's just flying us by? No short of me saying that, I found this. How many of you knew that this was even happening? And I got the feedback from you who acknowledged, yeah, things are happening and we're missing out until they're being debated on the floor of Parliament. And whose fault is that? I think we all need to be responsible, but more so, I think the onus is on both parties, our government, your elected representatives, and we have to invest in ourselves as well. I've taken this up only because we have heard how important it is for Caymanians to feel as though they want to own a piece of their home. And a piece of legislation like this is why I feel it is very important, no matter your age, even if you already have an existing mortgage, planning to get one, planning to refinance, planning to do another investment property, that this piece of legislation is critical. And I'm hoping that time will permit and I can show you maybe how there's a possibility the banks may or may not push back on this. And that is why your participation is always critical. Now let's break it down. As I said, in the whole bill that is in circulation, as I said, is 40 pages long. The objects and reasons, I'm not going to read this out to you. I'm just going to pretty much clarify as much as I can. with some of the clauses. You've heard Mr. Balika and I talking about these different clauses and what it means and all that sort of stuff and the legal jargon behind it. Now, this one isn't as bad because it is actually, as I rightfully say, and I'm quite sure if you get a learned legal person who just splits this up, this is very high profile, what I'm doing in just capturing some of the major changes for you, okay? And what is being proposed in this new change for us is pretty much a number of subheadings: stronger pre-lending requirements. And that goes down into putting the onus on the lending institution, really. What it's doing, it's putting the responsibility on the banks of them having to give clearer, more detailed information upfront from the beginning. Like, very clear what the fees are, explaining in layman's terms what the risks are, the interest changes, and enforcement penalties. Now, this is about transparency before you even sign off. Know whether or not it's a fixed rate, variable, meaning that it can change, fixed, meaning you're locked in for X amount of period of time, so that even if the interest rates goes up, your payments are not impacted. Variable, meaning it's flexible, it goes up, down, all over the place, so it's not a must for your monthly payments to remain the same. These are all terminology. And to my people who may be first-time persons going to the bank, do not think asking any question at this critical juncture is stupid. Do not get overwhelmed with the excitement and not go prepared to ask questions or be scared of asking questions, okay? That is the key. Always ask questions. Another part of this amendment that is put out for public discussion is that it is a structured pre-action process. What does that mean? This new proposal also puts, before a bank can enforce any charge, they must communicate earlier than whatever we're accustomed to. It's putting that in there. And they must also provide clearer notices to you, the customer, should you fall behind or your account is not in good standing. And the bank also is that a part of their pre-action process, before foreclosure, that is that they must offer opportunities to resolve arrears. And that really is about fairness and time when you look at that. Also, there is a duty built into this new bill that both sides, the borrower and the lender, must act in good faith. And this is about balance. Now, we have heard some horror stories. I cannot prove them, but I've heard over and over, and I've seen comments on various social media platforms where persons are saying that they feel sometimes that some lending institutions, especially with housing foreclosures and apartment complexes, duplexes, that they swear there is some join up approach between some of these foreclosure people and the banks and the real estate companies and maybe even persons, it's alleged, working with some of these financial institutions, that they buy up all of these places that on the demise of other people who may have fallen on hard times, and that they have found the relationships and working with some of these financial institutions have been tainted because they're not lining up to assist customers fairly, because they may themselves or through somebody else have plans on purchasing it at a deal. I don't know. Have you been a victim of this? Are you aware of somebody who may have gone through that? The phone lines are open. Weigh in on this. You don't have to call any name. Just try to confirm this. 345-936-8255 is the number to call if you've heard this, or please weigh in on the social media platform that you may be streaming us live from. You don't even have to be here. Even our brothers and sisters out there, if this is something that is happening in your jurisdiction, we would like to hear from you as well. Or if you've heard persons who have actually gone through this, we would like to hear from you or to get your feedback as well. Also, in addition to this, we see where this bill also recognizes that losing your primary residence is not the same as losing an investment property. Can you imagine that? Now, some may say, well, it shouldn't matter because it's a part of my portfolio. But I can see on the flip side where, yes, if you own multiple properties and it's not your primary place, your residence, and you fall short for some reason, maybe you went too thin, maybe you spread yourself too thin. But this bill actually recognizes one, losing their primary residence is not the same as losing an investment property or a second income maybe, or property period. It is about humanity. It's putting the human element into it. We've always talked about dignity here in this space. And another part of this bill is baked into this bill where there's more transparency across the lending relationship. And from that perspective, in this bill, they're covering it from the application to enforcement. The process becomes clearer to both parties. And really, that is about trust. Okay? Now, there are some sections in this that really popped out at me in regards, and I found it good. It's safeguarding. It's actually saying in the bill exactly what the law wants to bring to fruition. And if the bill is passed as written, Caymanians or any borrower will gain from this bill, because you know it's out for your feedback, out for your consultation. So you can change, possibly, if you give feedback, the trajectory of this bill, whether or not it stands the test of time, goes through the debating process on the floor of Parliament, and you know they're meeting in March. Maybe this is one of those that could actually be on the cause list, the agenda. But any borrower, what this bill means for you is that there are no more hidden surprises, is what, if it's passed as is, okay? And that means you get clearer information before you sign on the dotted line. And there's more time and notice before enforcement, meaning you're just not going to get a letter saying, look, your house is in foreclosure. You do get some breathing room, is what is actually proposed here, right? And also a stronger legal standard of fairness is what is also being recommended or being proposed in this legislation. So in layman's terms, what that actually do with this bill is that you have more protection if lenders, or if you feel lenders are acting unreasonably. And also extra protection for your primary house, as I said earlier. Your family gets, if it's your family home, now that will get special consideration. Now, I would think as a country, this factors in humility, as stated earlier, and also dignity, because we know life can hit us and hit us hard sometimes, right? And the transparency part of it is that you understand the process from the get-go, from start to finish. So imagine you're a young Caymanian couple buying your first home, and then put it on the other context. Imagine an elderly Caymanian refinancing to help their children. Or even a single mother trying to catch up on arrears for whatever reason. This bill, as proposed for public discussion, gives more clarity more time, and also more fairness. Okay? Now, when you look at the reality of the pushback in things, and I did have some expanded clarification, because in clause 3, I'm going to take it back to clause 3, where it says mortgages over land. Basically, clause 3 amends section 64 of the Principal Act by replacing and substituting subsection 1 to state that the proprietor may, by an instrument into the prescribed form, charge his or her land, lease, or charge to secure the payment of an existing, a future, or contingent debt over other money or monetary's worth fulfillment of a condition. Now, this amendment seeks to remove focus on the special acknowledgement at this stage and places emphasis on the right of the proprietor to charge the proprietor's property. Okay, just let me break that down because it's a lot of legal jargon, and this is why I try to bring it down in layman's terms so that we don't miss anybody here, right? What clause 3 is changing about this when it comes to mortgages over land is that it is basically updating, and I have to read my notes as I broke it down here. It basically updating how a person can use their land or their home as a security for a loan, and what paperwork must be signed before the loan is officially registered. And if you have the right to use your property as security for a loan, the law is being rewritten to make this very clear. If the land is owned, leased, or even another charge, you can use it to secure a loan you already owe, a loan you may have to take in the future, a loan that might only become due if something happens, like a contingent debt, as I read there in the substantive bill, and or any other financial obligation. So hoping I didn't lose anybody there. In simple terms, what I'm trying to say is that if you own your property, you can use it as collateral. And the law now states that clearly. There's no ambiguity. The ambiguity has been stripped away based on what is being proposed. And this update removes the focus on the special acknowledgement that this stage and at this stage of the whole process, and instead it focuses on your right as the owner to charge your property. So it kind of gives you that power, so to speak, than to say, yes, you have the right, and it's clear in the law to use my property or to use your property, right? Now, another part of this clause is that it says when the bank demands repayment, the default timeline is 3 months unless the loan says otherwise. Now, the law already says that if a bank demands repayment, you normally have the 3 months to pay unless your mortgage agreement says different, right? But the amendment makes this clearer. And this is why it's important for us to take the time and read some of these bills that is put out here for public digestion, Because what it actually does is that if the bank sends you a written demand, you usually get 3 months, unless your contract that you signed says otherwise, or that you agreed to a shorter or a longer time. So these are all things that you got to make sure you understand. Number 3 is that this is one of the biggest changes right now, right? The new required documents before a mortgage can be registered. One of the biggest changes. Listen to this. To register a mortgage charge, the bank must now submit 2 separate documents. Both of those documents, if you didn't know before, signs by both the borrower and the person who's taking out the loan. Now, a secured lending information form, this is a new form that will be introduced. And what that does, it really explains the key things that you will need to know before taking a mortgage on your home by mortgaging your property. So that is a secure lending information form that will be newly introduced. And what that actually covers is your responsibility, your obligation to the bank's rights, and the situations where your payments could increase. I didn't say decrease. Make it make sense and making sure you understand. And there's going to be another one as well, a special acknowledgement. And what that is that this already exists as we know it, but now it must be a separate document because of the inclusion of the secured lending information form. Okay. And what this special acknowledgement is that it confirms that you, the borrower, understand what can happen if you don't meet your mortgage obligations. So I can't break it down any simpler, right? Before a mortgage can be registered, you, the borrower, must sign 2 documents as proposed in this bill. One explaining the loan clearly, and one confirming that you understand the consequences. Now, this is to protect the homeowners, especially those living in the property. Okay? There's also a clause 4 that is here because the clause 3, I think, was expanded, but I jumped to clause 4 because that one popped out on me, and I'll go back. Okay? And I'm doing this in layman's terms for a number of reasons, because a lot of you ain't gonna sit down and read this, and it is quite confusing when you got to go back as read with this section and that section. So I kind of am doing this on the fly for you, but thank you for your feedback. Clause 4 of this bill actually dives into insurance requirements that have now been expanded, right? And what clause 4 does is that it updates the insurance requirements for any property used as security for a loan. Now, previously, under the law that we have now, the old law, the law only required insurance for hurricanes and fires, right? Now, the law expands the list to include earthquakes, floods, and any other catastrophic event. Okay? So they're expanding it. And that popped out at me because if it wasn't clear before, now it is. And we are seeing where seismic activity is actually increasing. So this law expands the list now to also include earthquakes, floods, and other catastrophic events. Now, in simple terms, if you use your property as collateral for a loan, as security for a loan, that property that you're using for security must now also be insured, not just for hurricanes and fires, but also for floods, earthquakes, and any other major disasters. And this, my friends, will actually protect the homeowner, the bank, and also the value of property. Now, over the weekend, I was reading where it says property values and the cost of rebuild, or I saw a comment where the cost of replacing your current existing property has changed. And someone said, well, does that mean we have to review our property insurance because maybe we're all underinsured? And I remember the previous episode that we had here, how much people really do that. When you look at the cost of building now, global supply chains issues, tariffs, and all of that sort of stuff, if internationally, if globally, we're saying the cost of building has skyrocketed, you need to check with your insurance provider to see if your house is underinsured. Now, you must be saying, Sabrina, here you go again. We cannot even afford the premiums that we got now. What are you trying to say? Don't blame me. This is the fact. Because you don't want to be licked where you are aware that cost to build, cost to replace has changed because of global markets, and you haven't had the conversation with your insurance provider. So, my word to the wise is to do the responsible thing, go into your home insurance provider and have the conversation. If they say what you have is sufficient, then you're good. But if you don't have the conversation, God forbid something happens, onus is on you. And you could end up being in a little kerfuffle with your insurance provider. Okay. So let's be clear. Let's do the responsible thing and let's just go and have the conversations. Take it from me. It's probably best. May not be what you want to hear with the possibly the new premium increases. But we are aware that the cost of building now and the cost of building even 3, 4, 5 years ago is day and night. God forbid, if anything was to happen and you had to claim on your insurance to replace exactly what you got, not enhancing it, you could be underinsured. Yeah, that's the takeaway from all of that. Hey, Denver, how you doing? Good to have you with us. Now, these other policies include will. Yes, it will. More than likely it will. Denver, I'm glad you said that because hence I'm saying, remember now, this is only a bill. But don't you think the insurance providers are not aware that this bill is out here for public consumption, for public feedback? And this is why it's important for you to educate yourself, because you can sit there and be under a rock and think those who are in the business that this law, should it come into effect as presented, ain't getting their ducks in a row. You got another guest coming. So this is why it's important for you to get ahead of it. Get ahead of it. The reality is, whether or not this bill is assented to, is approved unanimously, the fact of what I just shared, the cost of building right now in comparison to probably the premiums that you're paying now if you had to replace your property has gone up. So it may not have been anything significant, but what I'm saying is that is a fact. And we're just not even looking at the cost of replacing things here versus in going off and bringing it in yourself. Tariffs have had a huge impact on the cost of goods, building materials, accessories, you name it. So it is going to impact your actual premium. That is a given. Whether or not this bill actually come into effect, I think it would be wise for anybody to have a conversation with their insurance provider. And Jimbo, it's going to keep going where people will only be able to afford shelter. We'll be under a rock. Yeah, like Patrick. Pretty much. It is what it is. And this BS about underinsured must be looked into. Well, you see, that's another, hey, now this is just addressing the banks, right? I wonder if the Insurance Act and all of that sort of stuff is maybe another item that's on the checklist for this administration. Let's see, Denver. Let's see. That's a whole different, probably 3 days of conversations. And we have tried to scratch the surface, but now with this piece of legislation coming into place out for public discussion, that may open up another conversation for exactly how insurance companies actually operate here. Hey, you guys are the controllers. You guys need to speak up. And that's why this space is here. Let's continue. Going back to clause 3 again. Also in clause 3, because I had to bring in that clause 4 for you, which I may actually repeat for emphasis. What this clause 3 is really saying, it is strengthening transparency and making sure that homeowners understand exactly, just in case some of you may have slipped off, what they're signing, right? As I said at the beginning. And it also clarifies that if a bank depends or demands repayment on the default, the timeline is 3 months, unless your mortgage says otherwise. And I know, Connie, you raised your hand, said you got it. So moving right along, right? We covered the part about the flood and the insurance. So clause 5 now, let's talk about the interest rate change notices. And I know a lot of y'all talk about that compound interest. A lot of you talk about, and you're watching, even if you don't understand stocks and markets, I bet you always hear you guys talking when the feds decide to drop or raise interest rates. Because for those of you who are not on a fixed rate, we cringe, right? Yes, we cringe. This bill actually covers that. Let's see what it says in layman's terms, okay? Clause 5 of this bill introduces a brand new rule. Guess what that is? The rules that this particular clause says is that banks must notify borrowers in writing whenever the interest rates on their mortgage changes. That's interesting because sometimes if everybody, I'm quite sure pretty much is online banking, you will see it on Facebook, Instagram, whatever. And as you go to log on your online banking, you will see the notices there. It'll be interesting how this is defined. I digressed. Let's stick to the bill. What that means is that if the interest rate goes up, the bank must now tell you at least 30 days before it takes effect. And if your interest rates go down, they must tell you on or before the date it takes effect. And the notice must clearly state the old rate, the new rate, when the change starts, and any other information that is pertaining to that, right? Now, we will see where routine rates changes under variable rate, as I explained earlier on. But it do not need to change, or they don't need to be registered with Lands and Survey, right? Routine rate change under a variable mortgage rate do not need to be registered with Lands and Survey. So what this clause 5 that's introduced, which is new and is not in the current bill, banks can still change your interest rates if your mortgage allows it. So that based on fixed or variable. But now they must tell you clearly in writing and also in advance. Okay? Denver says demand loans is a must for home buyers. Denver says otherwise they're killing you with interest. A lot of people don't understand compound interest. And I kind of broke it down one day when I was talking about there's a daily charge for you having an existing balance on a mortgage, despite you signed a agreement with your lending institution that this mortgage is for 20 years, 30 years, whatever the time is. Capitalized interest, which is a number of other fees, but one of the fees included in that is for you having a remaining balance every day. Did you know that? Despite you signing that this mortgage, this loan, whatever it is, this facility is for 10, 15, 20 years, you're still being charged for having that loan every single day. It's like living in a hotel, a nightly rate. You're still being charged every day. And that's like a daily rate on top of what you signed. Yeah. Ask your bank. Yes, you're actually being charged a daily fee for having a remaining balance. And it's a part of one of the fees that makes up your compound interest. Now, clause 6 in this bill, right to redeem or pay off your mortgage. Okay. What this clause does is that clause 6 updates the rules around redeeming a mortgage. What this means is that paying it off and getting your property released from the charge. So let me break it down right now. You can pay off your mortgage anytime before the bank sells your property. God forbid if it's in foreclosure, right? As long as you pay everything you owe. Number one, as long as you fulfill any obligations under that mortgage. And number three, as long as you cover any reasonable cost to the bank that the bank may have incurred as well. So in simple terms, this clause 6, you can clear your mortgage at any time before a forced sale happens, but you must also include any other reasonable costs that the bank may have incurred. Now, if you pay off early, you must give notice or pay 3 months interest. Did you know that? Because the old law was, you can call it harsh. The current law that's in effect right now was harsh. It made you pay all of the interest unless you had a mutual agreement with the bank. The old law made you pay all of the interest for the rest of the mortgage term. But under what is being proposed, the new law is much fairer. You, the borrower, under this new bill, you must at least give 3 months notice or pay 3 months interest on the remaining balance. Okay, so that's clear. It is clear. You don't have, if you had 10 years left on your mortgage under the old law, some banks demanded, or the law itself said, you had to pay the remaining interest, even though you were paying it off early. Now, what this bill is introducing is that you give 3 months notice, so it's clear, or you pay 3 months interest on the remaining balance. Now, please note, this is why it's important before you sign the dotted line. Even though that is what's in this bill, you can always negotiate with your financial institution based on the relationship you have with them and based on how long you have been paying on that facility, on that mortgage, on that loan. Because sometimes this bill, from what I'm seeing, is just making it clear. Okay? Sometimes, based on the length of time that you have been paying on a mortgage and you fall in hard times or you want to pay it off early for whatever reason, they will say, you've given me notice. That's okay. You don't have to pay 3 months. You have given me notice in writing. We have followed it up in person. We have followed it up on a video call, whatever. But that hinges on the relationship you have with the bank first and foremost, your clearness and clarity in your communication, and mutually agreed. It all depends on how you work with your bank, okay? So if you pay off, let's say, after the due date, of course, the notice period drops from 3 months to 1 month. And the interest penalty drops from 3 months to 1 month. You heard what that mean? If you pay off after the due date, the notice period then drops from 3 months to 1 month. And the interest penalty then drops from 3 months to 1 month as well. So if you're late paying off your mortgage, the penalty under this bill will now be smaller. Okay? What Denver saying. Catch 22. If your home is foreclosed, is in foreclosure, and you pay it off before the bank can sell it. Yeah. But that's what this bill is now introducing, that it is a possibility. But you must also, Denver, because remember now, behind the scenes, administratively, the bank has probably reached out to lawyers. They have probably reached out to real estate realtors and all that sort of stuff. The admin fees that they may have incurred, as long as you make sure that you pay off any additional fees that the bank may have incurred. Yes, that is what this bill is saying. Now, there's a clause 7 in this bill that says what banks must do before enforcing a mortgage. And this clause 7 says is one of the biggest consumer protection changes in the bill, clause 7. Because clause 7 strengthens the steps a bank must take before they can appoint a receiver or sell your property. So let me break it down in layman's terms. The bank must send a detailed notice of default, okay? And in this notice, under this bill, they must now clearly state when you fell behind, how much you owe, how long you have to get it in line to fix it, and what will happen if you don't. 4 key headings must be covered in any communication that the bank communicates to you. That's basic. There could be more. And if these are not about money, and if the issue is not about money, for example, breach of another condition, the notice must be explained. You must be saying, well, what's Sabrina talking about? You think the bank can foreclose on you just because you're not paying? You got that wrong. There could be other breaches in your loan and you're paying on time, monthly, and the required amount. Whatever those other breaches are, they must be explained to you. What the breaches is, how to fix it, and any compensation required, and the consequences, whether you can fix it still or maybe something that can fix later, right? Bottom line is the banks will have a responsibility to spell out exactly what went wrong and how you can fix it, okay? Yeah. They must spell it out. Let me give you an example. You know that when you borrow money from the bank, especially from a mortgage, you need to get property insurance. And on top of that, life insurance. God forbid if you fall behind on either, the bank can foreclose on you for, let's say, not having life insurance. Let's say you're having difficulty getting medical insurance coverage because something happened, or that you're able to get it, but the premiums are so high, it's going to cut into what you were paying on the mortgage. Let me tell you, they can foreclose on that. Okay? So you could be paying as agreed the amount on the right date, maybe even before time, never short, never late. But if they were to uncover that there were other breaches in other terms and conditions of that lending facility, they can foreclose on you. Okay? But there are extra protections as well in this new bill that's being proposed for the owner, especially when the owner occupies their home, right? If what this bill is trying to cover, if the borrower lives in the home, the bank must also give you a pre-action information form, as I went into before, and a pre-action questionnaire. And these documents will explain your situation. They will ask for details about your finances, and they will also allow you to propose a repayment plan. Now, based on what is proposed, you will have 21 days to return the questionnaire. So if your home, if it is your house that is being foreclosed on, where you're living in, the bank must work with you before taking action. And that must be demonstrated, as I've alluded to earlier on. Now, if for some whatever reason you change mailbox, or somebody's mailbox that you're using and you don't get your mail on time, or for whatever reason, you don't get your emails, or your emails have changed, or whatever reason it is where communication with your bank has been compromised, if you don't respond, it will come across to them that you are appearing to ignore them. Or even if you ignore the forms or refuse to cooperate, the bank can stop trying to negotiate and move forward with whatever enforcement they actually have up their sleeves. So it is important that the onus is on you to remember what contact details, including phone numbers and emails and mailing addresses that you gave them in the inception, that is current and that you always have access to them. Because you must engage or the bank can proceed. And also in this bill is that the bank must tell you in writing whether they accept your proposal, that's you not ignoring them and you actually respond. They must tell you whether or not they reject it. And the bank must also tell you whether or not they want to change the terms of the lending facility based on all facts that are gathered. So they must also give you 14 days to consider any offer they make and advise you to seek legal or financial advice. So this is what you call negotiating. Yeah, even though you may be down in a slump, there is time for you to go back and counter or to make your tweaks or based on what suggestions they give you. You can see where the bill now is actually outlining the proper steps that is fair and balanced on both sides thus far, right? Now, the bank must also wait before taking action. Even after all the notices and forms, right? They still have to wait 3 months after the default notice and 14 days after responding to your proposal. So really and truly, the banks can't rush to sell your home. They're mandatory by this bill waiting periods for either parties. Okay, so it's no longer lopsided. Denver. Yeah, however, the people getting a mortgage are so happy they sign on the dotted line. And likewise, the mortgage offer is happy, however, don't explain all the terms and conditions to borrowers. Now, this bill actually makes that mandatory for both parties to make sure that they understand. Alton, they give me 20 years to pay off and I do it in 14 years, never missed a payment. Now I'm free. Wow, congratulations to you. And I will never put back our home in any debt. Good for you, Alton. Oh my God, you must be sleeping like a baby every night. Thank God I don't have to answer to them. Amen to you, Donnie Bonnie. Oh my God. Yep. But here you go. But this is why it's important, because even though you guys have done it, what does this say for the young men and women that are trying, that are aspiring to be homeowners? Yes, it is a little easier, but the environment has changed. It is so much more expensive right now that, what does this say? Because we're seeing where there could be financial implications, even though they're trying to actually strengthen it where legislation is concerned. It will actually come with a higher cost. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Sabrina Speaks. You're live.
Only you can pull off that shade of green the way you do.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I want to with you. Right down, boy, you can make my day, Alfred.
Hi, Auntie Sabrina.
Hi.
I wanted to ask you a question, just a short one. I'm not going to stay on the phone long.
Okay, go ahead.
With all of these proposals in the new bill, making it more fair, won't this then in turn make it more difficult for ordinary people to get mortgages? Because
excellent question. From the bank's perspective.
The bank's perspective, yeah.
I have a flip side to that, because they could actually push back. They could actually turn up the dial and we could have less actually being approved. So there is a flip side to this.
All right, I'm listening keenly.
But this is why it's important for public engagement, public feedback. And I hope that when this particular ministry actually engage with stakeholders, that we will get more public feedback on it of your concerns. And you don't have to be a financial guru, because all I'm doing is really in layman's terms telling you what the bills say. I haven't been in a position. I don't know anybody, you understand, who have been personally impacted by this, that even an aspiring young person, how it could impact them. So it'll be interesting. My duty is to just bring it to you in layman's terms, but you're quite right. The banks do have their say as well.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Always a pleasure hearing you. Yes. Yeah. Congratulations to you too, Connie Bunny. I did it in 10 years. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Congratulations to all of you who are doing that. Oh my gosh. This is different times. I bet you guys have made some serious sacrifices to get that done. But yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So going back, where the banks must wait before taking actions, like I said, both parties, they must wait 3 months after the default notice and 14 days after responding to your proposal. So it's actually negotiating under the terms and making sure that both of you, the financial person, the facility, and yourself, can reach a happy medium that it works out for everybody. Okay. Contrary to what some of people may say, and I take away in case there are any unscrupulous persons who honestly are in there watching for people's demise, to call their friend either in the real estate company or themselves to purchase your property. I really don't feel the bank like to do foreclosures. I stand to be corrected, because their books look better when they show what's on their books, because it has value, and when it shows where people are making payments regularly. They don't like to see money stagnant. That's really how the banks work. So when you're putting your money in and you're not moving it, the banks don't like it. And that's why mortgages and Christmas loans and holiday loans make their books look good. Makes their books look good. That is why when they send somebody out to actually access your property, to make sure when they ask you for a current valuation, and they send sometimes a loan person to really look to see that that is pictures of your property, they're not applauding you for being a good housekeeper and cleaning it. They're making sure that what their value is real, because it makes their books look good. So let me tell you, I think we're misunderstanding certain things of the bank, and you got to see it from all two sides. Okay. Now, if you take the matter, let's say, to court, getting back on track, the bank cannot enforce the mortgage until the court has made a decision. So let's say you challenge it, okay, which will be more fees. The bank cannot enforce the mortgage, meaning they cannot sell it until after the court has made a decision, okay? And if you choose to spread out, let's say, enforcement fees, you can elect to amortize, means spread it out so it's not a big fee. And that includes the legal and administrative fees over the remaining term of the mortgage. So you're just not, of course, your bottom line now is going to go up, but you don't have to pay that in a balloon payment, okay? So you don't have to pay all these fees up front. But what I need you to understand with this section is that banks must follow, including yourself, all these steps before suing, okay? Especially for the owner who is occupying the house that could be going into foreclosure. What this is doing is that banks must comply with every requirement, and you got to make sure that you know this law, because this is why this law is going to be important once and if it comes into effect. You can win a case if you find out that they, the banks, did not follow all the requirements before, okay? And that's make sure your house is in order too. Now, clause 8 of this actually breaks down how banks can sell a property. And what this clause is doing in this bill is that it modernizes the sale process. Because right now, the law only allows for an auction. And the amendment to this bill allows for listing the property on multiple listing systems. That's the MLS. Marketing it like a normal real estate sale, so there's no more hidden BS. And setting a reserved price based on the average of three independent valuations. You hear that? Right now, the old law says it can only be auction, but the amendments will allow for listing it on multiple listing sites, marketing it like a normal real estate sale, and setting a reserve price based on the average of three independent valuations. So if a home must be sold for whatever reason, it can now be listed on the open market. It's not a private friend thing. Everybody will see it out there in the open based on some of the conversations that I've heard publicly and in person. And they can no longer just auction it, and it must be priced fairly. Okay? So that's what this bill is saying. When you look at also more protections of Clause 8, the bank can take possession once the sale is agreed. And in subsection 1C of this, it says that the bank, being on the legal documents, the chargee, is entitled to take possession of the property once a bid has been accepted at a public auction, or a sale agreement has been made after listing the property on the MLS. Okay? Before, it was on the auction. So the little friends thing, no. Now it has to go public, okay? And once the property is officially sold, whether by an auction, whichever choice they decide to sell it from, or regular listing, the bank can take possession to complete the sale. Okay? Annie, good evening. Thank God ours have been paid off for 15 years, but don't forget about the house insurance that must be paid just in case there's a fire, hurricane, or any other catastrophic problems. Yeah, Anne. And now we're including flooding into that. So yeah. Yep. There we go. Coldwell Banker has exited the chat. Oh, I didn't know they were there. Sorry. Anyhow, I'm just giving it to you based on the bill. So everybody's learning today. But you all better learn, because this is having power. Knowledge is power. And members of civil society cannot say you're not educated on Sabrina Speaks. The podcasts are here for you to go back and listen to it. And the bill is there in the public's domain for your digestion. Okay? So, what this does now, taking it on to the bank's responsibility, the bank must notify the borrower within 14 days after the sale. And a new subsection 1D requires the bank to send the borrower a written notice within 14 days of the sale. And that notice must include the sales price, whether the debt was fully paid off, any remaining balances, the cost related to the sale, the interest rate applied, repayment terms, and the option to amortize, spread out the outstanding fees over the remaining loan term. So in simple terms, what this means is that after the sale, the bank must tell you exactly what happened and what was paid, what's left, if any, and how you can manage any remaining costs. Now, let's hope if it actually goes there that whatever they sell it for, you could just pay off the bank. And even if you don't have anything back, which I hope that's not the case, in your pocket, that you can actually just not have to pay something, because that's a double whammy loss on you. Okay? Now, there's also a clause 9, going to court for directions. And what this clause says is that clause 9 introduces a new section, and that's 7 to 7A as in Adam. And this section allows either the borrower or the bank to ask the court for guidance in certain situations. Very interesting. Now, what this actually says is that when the borrower can apply to the court, okay, meaning you, and in layman's terms, a borrower who is living in the home, meaning owner occupies the place, they can apply to the court if the bank did not act in good faith, if the bank did not follow the rules in accordance to this section 75, if the if the borrower already had completed a pre-action questionnaire, and if the bank already given a written decision. So what that really means is that if the bank didn't follow the rules or didn't treat you fairly, you can ask the court to step in. You follow that? And the bank can also apply for discretions. The bank can also apply for discretions if they need clarification on how to exercise their enforcement powers. Remember, this is one saying where it goes, every man for themselves. But ignorance to the law is no excuse. And this bill is really creating, as best as I can see, a level playing field for both parties. Okay? So what the court can do then in this case is that the court, should it reach this point, they can give directions and they can grant relief as well. And they can also clarify rights and obligations. Breaking that down in simpler terms is that either side, basically what they're saying, either side can ask the court for help. And then it's up to the court to guide the process. Bearing in mind, it's in your best interest to seek legal counsel if you're not versed yourself. There's also a clause 10 in here that says how notices must be served, and it's clearly outlined in this bill. And clause 10 really updates the rules for serving notices when the usual methods don't work. Remember what I told you earlier on? Now, previously, if a notice couldn't be served normally, it could be posted on the land or the property or published in a gazette. How much people read them? Now, this amendment to this bill, it actually says that publication in a widely circulated newspaper for 2 consecutive editions. Do you feel that's broad enough? Or do you feel there should be one particular government website that actually does this? Interesting. You see, this is where your feedback counts. Let me read it. It says, previously, if a notice couldn't be served normally, it would be posted on the land or published in the Gazette. Now the amendment adds, meaning it includes, publication in a widely circulated local newspaper for 2 consecutive editions. So if they can't reach you directly, they must also publish it or publish the notice in a local newspaper, not just the Gazette. So for all of you who read no newspapers, I better start reading them. Subscribe. Now, would that be all newspapers or would it be only one? This is where questions come up. We have multiple media sources. We have some that do not print hard copy. They're only in digital format. This is where your opinion, your feedback matters. Maybe there could be regulations that clearly outlines this. This is just the bill for public digestion. Okay? Don't pay insurance, self-insure. I do that. Oh, you're giving some advice there, Donnie. Landlocked properties need to be addressed also. Not sure which law that should be addressed in. Interesting. Yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm. Clause 11 says, Cabinet can amend schedules. What this means, ladies and gentlemen, is that Clause 11 allows the cabinet to update the schedule. That means the forms and documents by issuing an order, a cabinet order. And in simple terms, it's pretty simple. The government then can update the required forms without having to pass a whole new law. It just expedites the process. Now, some of you may agree with this, some of you may disagree, because it puts it in the hands of your MPs, the cabinet, okay? Public consultation. Let's get your feedback on that. Now, Section 12 of this, it actually proposes a new schedule this new schedule that is added to this bill. Clause 12 officially inserts 4 new schedules into the law. And Schedule 1 of that is secured lending information form. So you'll get an idea of what the information and what that should actually look like. Schedule 2 actually shows what the special acknowledgement form should look like as well. Schedule 3 should show you the pre-action information form, so you'd see exactly what information would be entailed in that. And Schedule 4 is the pre-action questionnaire. Yes. So, very interesting that they have actually put this also for your digestion, but it is subject to change based on your feedback. And this is why it's so important for you to participate and give your feedback. Now, these are the documents that borrowers must receive and sign during the lending pre-enforcement process. So what this actually say is that the law now includes the actual forms that must be used so everyone knows beforehand exactly what they look like and what they must contain. Now, isn't that transparency? Some of you guys may be happy for this. Some of y'all would be happy for this. Denver, what do you got to say? People need to have more knowledge in banking. A bank tried to take me to court for an overdraft I left hanging because of them debiting my account without due notification of withdrawal. I got advice from a lawyer, did as he said, went to pay off the overdraft. After second time, they tried to take me to court. Went back to the bank and said, I refuse to pay you what you now want due to add interest, which was far, greater after about a year and a half. I said, I came to pay the original. Very interesting. You see, now let's hope these type of behaviors, Denver, don't happen with this bill. And hopefully, as we continue to mature and modernize our legislation with real-time experiences and feedbacks like this, that could be something else we could look at in the future. We don't know. But legislation and your feedback counts. And I thank you for sharing that with us. Now, there's also Clause 13. You always hear us talking about the transitional rules. And what this clause in 13 explains is that it explains what happens to mortgages that are already existing or that are already in progress when the new law comes in force. And pretty much the rule is simple, that if a mortgage already exists or if a loan is already being processed under old rules, it will continue under the old rules. Yeah. So what this means is that the new law does not apply to existing mortgages or loans already in progress. It will only apply to mortgages credited after the law starts, and it must follow the new rules. So God forbid, if you're in a situation where you have found yourself in this position until the law is passed and come into full effect, then you would be under the old rules. Now, I told you that we have to look at it from the other side of the lenders, and I'm blown over that I actually got to cover this, because lenders may actually push back on this because they have a right. Remember, our elected officials, when presenting these things, must engage with stakeholders alike, right? So you will have lenders actually weighing in on this, which is important. And we got to be balanced. Let's be balanced, Cayman. We know that our lenders operate in a risk-sensitive environment as it is. They're taking a risk for every loan, every credit card, everything that they give you in hopes that you will pay it off under the terms and conditions. It is a risk to not only yourself, but also to them. And they may push back on this bill. Not necessarily out of malice. No, not necessarily. They're in it to make money. It is a business, simply put. And based on what the caller asked, there could be some increased administrative burdens. Yeah. There could be even more disclosures, more paperwork, and again, leading to higher costs. So I'm looking at it now from the bank's perspective as best as I can, where pushback is concerned. Okay. Things to consider. There could also be slower enforcement processes as well, because structured steps may actually delay enforcement. Okay. And subjectivity of fair and reasonable in this case, because we know how emotive this can be, banks prefer clearer rules, not broad principles. And I think you have to look at it from both sides of the coin in this case, because they have a right to defend their services, their product, aka their money that they're lending you. Okay. And also, the banks may probably see from the perspective where there's a higher risk for owner-occupied loans. I bet you never look at it like that. They may actually see that where more protections could tighten the lending criteria. Some of you worried. What happens to someone who doesn't even have a mortgage yet? What does that mean? These are all things that the bank could use to say, hold up, now we're going to do this. Now this bill is forcing us to do that. And also, the longer mortgage approval times could be a factor as well, because there's more compliance steps, slower approvals that could come between you in a financial institution approving a mortgage versus you competing with someone who has cash, a cash sale. And slower approvals because of all of this could actually cause you to lose your property or your dream property, let's say. And Cayman, these protections are meaningful, but lenders also have legitimate concerns. I can see them having legitimate concerns. The key in all of this, from what I'm seeing, is balance. And balance, in this case, only comes when both sides participate. And I know some of us are scorned. I'm seeing all of you celebrating who managed to pretty much pay yours off. Good for you. But for somebody who's in it right now, and you've seen, we've been through that whole thing where the interest rates continue to climb. And some people's mortgages doubled. And some people went up by 1,000, some as much as 2,000. And people really felt it. But at the end of the day, it was a risk. And we heard people saying, where is the protection for us? So that brings it right down to why your feedback matters. And that, my friends, is the heart of today's episode. I didn't go into this in the micro way in which I could. I just brought you the key things to bring it across, to give you a flavor of what this bill that's being introduced is saying. And public consultation is not a formality. by right if followed correctly. However, I know some of you may actually disagree who have attended some of these public consultations. It is really an invitation to hear from each of you. It means take yourself up, get out of your house, and if they're going to be having town hall meetings, be it virtually or going to district, go and hear it for yourself. Ask your questions. Read the bill yourself. And there could be other questions that I personally can't answer because I'm just delivering to you in layman's terms what the bill is proposing. I don't have the answers. I don't. I'm just bringing it to you. That's what they're for. Because if you've ever struggled at any point in time to understand your mortgage, if you've ever felt blindsided by fees, and I know I've been in conversations with my friends about this capitalized interest. If you've ever supported a family member in arrears, or if you've ever worried about losing a generational home, then you do have something very valuable to say. And you shouldn't take these invitations to participate in these public discussions for granted, because your leader, lawmakers themselves, really pays attention, to patterns. Yeah. And when many voices echo the same concern, it becomes impossible to ignore. But if we stay silent, it's free reign. Silent is what? Consent. So, my plea to you, every one of you here today, is to pay close attention to the space. If I'm aware of any public meetings or anything like that, if they are on any shows, I would encourage you to tune in and just go out, because sometimes you are limited with time. But get your questions, your experiences, your concerns, and even suggestions based on what little I have been able to unpack here. If you've really been confused and don't understand, or you feel locked in, or you're like, holy crap, with all of this now, it's definitely out of my reach. I can't do this anymore. Age is a factor. What would be my quality of life? There's no longer anything within my reach. How can I pay off a mortgage in a reasonable time that doesn't attract a huge monthly bill and all that sort of stuff? That could possibly, if they hear from you, impact some of these changes. But I think this is twofold. This is a step in the right direction. It does give the borrowers much more protections, but it also puts a lot more burden and onus on the banks as well, where transparency is concerned, which could attract administrative costs that what would have probably been $150 may now be $300. So even if you get successful with a mortgage, your banking fees and closing costs could probably increase. We don't know. There's a flip side to all of this, because then, sometimes the bank will pass some of these things on to the customers. But this is where you have your right in your hand. And like I said, not hearing from you, silent is consent. It is. Alton says, I have learned so much today from you. Oh, thank you. I hope, that made me feel good, because I thought about myself, even though I know I'm not by myself. But I'm hoping that I'm merely scratching the surface here. But I was able to just give this to you in a nutshell, and I will make that my promise to you once I'm aware that there's a bill in circulation, and I have the time to really try to dissect it and to deliver it to you. I will do my best to do that. Not all are only going to be 40 pages long. You can see how we struggled, Jesus, almost 3 weeks for the immigration bill, and we still not unraveled that. Not all may be the same, but thank you for your feedback. I really, really appreciate that. Denver, people need to learn how to protect themselves. If you don't know, seek advice. And Denver, you're quite right. And many people are lost with even know where to start to seek that advice. And that is why spaces like this become so important, that we're able to share our experience, our knowledge, and maybe there may be something some of you may have shared here today that would have or possibly have inspired somebody who's navigating. I've had my own fair share of navigating the banks, and I don't know if it was just me, but I was shocked once when my loans officer said, she was proud of me being a Caymanian, in a sense where I came in and I questioned, and I stand to be corrected, but I think the choice of words were, you challenged us. You came back with a counter offer. Like you were negotiating. You think Sabrina knew what she was doing? She just be like, no, but can you do this? Can you? And I asked the prime plus one, prime plus this. And then I asked the relevant questions. I had no clue at that time, honestly, what I was doing. But what I'm saying is to have a relationship with that individual, that financial institution that says, and they have been very nice to me. Kudos to them. I must say they have assisted for years. But it didn't go without me preparing myself, speaking sometimes to the right persons, giving scenarios and researching stuff a little bit for myself as well, because it was real. It's real for me. And being a self-employed person those days, you had to understand it. And it was dark as midnight. I don't have nothing called no accounting degree, but I knew that I had my books in order. I knew that I was in a standing where what I was asking for of my lending institution, that I could demonstrate that I've been a good customer and that I've been reaching all of my obligations. And I just went in for it. And I didn't feel at any point in time when I was asking the questions that I was negotiating, because in their lingo now I was negotiating. Sabrina had no clue. I'm hoping that this inspires someone to not be scared to approach your bank, not be fearful of honest communication with them. With all my heart of hearts, I really don't feel any bank is out there pushing you into foreclosure if you fall in a little bind. With all my heart of hearts, I don't feel that. I stand to be corrected. But and we Caymanians have a lot of pride. It could be illness. It could be a separation, be it a marriage or a divorce or something. You need to go in and speak if your circumstances in your home has changed. Maybe you've lost your job. There could be multiple factors that could impact your current situation that your bank needs to know. And if you really have a good relationship with your accounts manager, they should see where your pattern has changed. They could see how you actually furnish or how you take care of your accounts has changed. And if they're really paying attention, they will say quickly, I think we need to meet. Doesn't mean all the time it's bad. They actually are opening the door for you to have a conversation. And that's relationships that can be built, but it takes both parties to do that. And personal experience, I can tell you this. My lending institution knew when things changed. Yeah, they know. They know. And everything changed. And they can tell you from when it changed. And that's when you know you got a good financial institution, that you're just not a number. And that makes a world of a difference when you don't feel like a number. Many of you complain that some of the downsides of your financial institutions is now everything is automated. You can barely speak to anybody. They're sending you onto this link and you can't go in and sit down and speak to your loans officer how you used to. And it's, yes, it has changed. It has changed. Some of them don't even have tellers. We're now seeing, oh, I think I was in a conversation today earlier with Sandra. One particular financial institution is no longer going to be doing US bank drafts. Yeah, if my memory serves me well. So what's going to be the trade-off for that? Is it that they're no longer doing bank drafts and everything must be electronic funds transferred directly to someone's account? We're going to dig into that a little bit more. Or maybe Sandra. Yeah, it was Sandra. It was me and her were talking earlier on today. And so I said all of that because we're seeing how we actually conduct business, especially with banks, are changing rapidly. And I know I can have some of you out there who are listening. I tell you, Sabrina, this is control. This is control, and they're controlling us. I know it. I welcome both sides of this conversation. But let's get back to the substantive point of this bill. The important things is to take away from this is that communication is key. That our government has realized that there are some serious gaps, that there needs to be a level playing field that not only protects the borrower, but also there's room for the lender to pull up their bootstraps as well. And your feedback is critical, okay? Your feedback is critical. Denver says, choose your friends wisely, people with wisdom and knowledge. Yes, and I have been blessed, Denver. I have really been blessed over the years. To tell you that as an entrepreneur, I have that bug that I don't take some risks. Yeah, I did. But yeah, I've just been happy that I have been surrounded by people, to be honest, that are very full of knowledge and wisdom. But it also takes guts. You got to be a special kind of special to be like me, though, Denver. I have some friends that say, there's too much people like you, there's too much people like you. Alton says, I agree with you that CNB will work with you, especially the one on the BRAC. Well, you don't have another one to deal with on the BRAC, Alton. So yeah, no, not lie. You got credit union. That's true. You got two banks over there, though. But thank you for that. Shameless plug for CNB and the crew over there. Big up CNB and Credit Union in Cayman BRAC. There you go. Lots of love coming here from Alton Moxham over there. I'm quite sure they will treat you, roll out red carpet for you. Hey, Miss Lucille, how you doing? I'm late, but I'm still here, Sabrina. You stay safe. Blessings to you and always love. Love you too, my love. Denver says, no longer doing bank drafts. The beginning of, I tell you, I knew it wouldn't have been long. I knew it. See how I know you guys so well? No longer doing bank draft, Denver Douglas says, the beginning of total control. Money is not going to be around before long, all digital. What do you guys say about the digital ID? How much of you have gone and signed up? Denver, you gone and get yours yet? Connie Bonnie, have you gone and get yours yet? Look, things and times are changing. And I can see with all of these rules and regulations coming in that you can see it happening daily here, that they are changing. So it's only a matter of time that we either, I sound hard saying this, you either step up to the plate or you're going to be left behind. Now, whether you're feeling that that's infringing on your right of choice, your freedoms, it all depends on how much business you're going to do. Some of us will be weighing in on this quite differently, to be honest. And it'll be interesting how people look at all of this going forward as we continue to navigate this space. But yeah, not yet. Should I? Why not? Go get the thing. Make sure you prove you Caymanian, though. Take your little piece of paper. Make sure, because it's not going to come out with you as Caymanian if you don't take your little piece of paper. Denver, you go and get yours. Ask the man that just tuned in. Which one that is, I didn't see. Ask the man that just tuned in. I don't know which one that is. I know Danny was first in the line. He was first to get his. I don't want to pull him out here today. We only got like 4 minutes left of this show. Danny, we're first in the line, Denver. Danny, we're first in the line to get his EID. Oh my God, it's so funny. But yeah, why not? Yeah. I actually just need to venture out to go get mine. I'm going to take my papers to prove I know who I am. Yep, you better. Yeah, just go get it. Just gotta get it done. I know I'm going to get some backlash from this, because it is what it is. I think it's up to choice, Oh my gosh. Alton says, I no longer use cash, cards, or online transfer. I no longer use cash, cards, or online transfers. What do you do then? How do you get around? Are you just gone digitally, bank to bank transfers and that sort of stuff? Interesting. I think we're going there, whether or not we want to at the end of the day. We're headed in that direction, and we're seeing globally what's happening, but we also see the risks of digital currency. I'll share the information. I'm going to try to find a link and put it under this episode of where you can get the information. Government had it. I had it in the other episode, I think, but I'll share it again this evening after I end. But yeah, but it's what the last report I think was only 900, and a lot of people are going who's like, yay, I'm Caymanian, and they're being told, oh, you got to apply to be acknowledged, and they are. You can see the smoke coming out of their ears like, what do you mean? Yeah. So it's interesting. It's a learning experience, but the red carpet has been rolled out for Caymanians to get their IDs first and foremost. And the slow uptake could be because a lot of people are finding out, oh my gosh, I have to be acknowledged. So if you know you've been acknowledged, it should be easy peasy for you. And you will get all the necessary and relevant immigration, at least your true nationality, print out on your card. If you fail to do that, then your nationality, I stand to be corrected, comes out ... which means your ID would worth nothing. So please don't settle for that. Just don't. Oh, okay. Yeah, Alton, everything I need, I use my card to buy. Yeah, okay, I got you. Yeah, so word to the wise. I'll share it with you guys exactly how to sign up for it. But ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to a close. What you say now, Dan? Oh, yeah, we pull him out. We pull him out, students. We pull out Danny. That's not all they will find out. Haha. You brute. I heard you were first in the line. Show me your card, Danny. Show me your ID. Just show us that you got your ID. I'm just messing with you. But you know what? We've come to an end of Sabrina Speaks today. I really hope you enjoyed it. I'm hoping that you can go for yourself. And I'll also post this link as well. I'll post a link for this Registered Land Amendment Bill 2026 up under it, and then where you can go for more information on how to collect your EID if you actually... we know we could be so broke with all these things, then it ain't gonna be no money for you to get anyhow. So it is what it is. Thank you for your time. I've learned so much. God bless you always. Likewise. But yeah, it has been a pleasure bringing you another episode of Sabrina Speaks. Of course, even after the show ends, you're welcome to send in your questions, your concerns. We're more than happy here to actually share them. This is a week of love. Valentine's is this weekend. So for all of you who want to do that, I just try to do a little thing in the back just to set the mood, set the pace, showing love, not only on Valentine's Day, but all the time. But even if, don't force yourself. Don't force yourself. Don't feel obligated if you got other priorities. I am one of those females that I do like the just because. I like the surprise. I'm doing this just because it may make somebody happy. It may actually bring them a little smile on their face. But for me, it could be Valentine's every day. But it's a week of love. It should be always a week of a day of love, that we show love and appreciation for each other. But Valentine's is Saturday. How many of you got plans? Connie Bonnie? Connie Bonnie, you got plans? Jimbo can't go no way. Uh-oh. Anyhow. Anyhow, I think I've made enough trouble for this evening, but it has been a pleasure bringing you another episode of Sabrina Speaks right here on CMRTV.com. Until tomorrow, maybe we should keep it light and lively and full of hugs and kisses. Who to tell? Let's see what we can dig up for tomorrow. But until tomorrow evening, please be safe. To all of our frontline staff, thank you for your service. Be safe on the road. Please, before you say something unkind, think about it and say something nice. Love you lots. God bless and take care. Good night.
That's a wrap for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you for tuning in and for being part of the conversation. Remember, the dialogue doesn't stop here. Stay engaged, stay informed, and most importantly, stay empowered. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m., same time, same place, right here on CMR TV and radio, where your voice matters and your truth is heard. Until then, Cayman, take care of yourself and each other.
That's it for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks, where your voice matters, your story counts, and your truth is always welcome. Join us weekdays from 5 until 6:30 p.m. right here on CMR TV as we dive into the topics that matter most to you. Catch the show live or on demand at CMRTV.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram so you never miss a moment. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and always speak your truth.